Hey guys, welcome back to another market update. It is November 6th. We are talking about the stats for October 2025. Jen, Patty, how are you two?
Great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm
Good,
doing
Adam.
well.
Yeah.
I'm excited for another month. This is a very interesting month. We have
That's a good
another
way to
interest
put
rate
it.
drop. There's a
Yes,
couple
we
things that
did have
happened.
another interest rate drop. Yes, we did.
Okay, let's just list them off here. We have another interest rate drop. We have a
Yeah.
couch and land dispute. We have
Oh, yeah.
buyer hesitation. We have sellers that don't really want to listen, but they're hesitating as well. We have unemployment ticking up. We have slow sales. We have building inventory. How do we make sense of this all?
Called a normal market.
Yeah. Which one should we tackle first? Yeah.
It's just called a normal market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go
I
ahead,
was going
Jen.
to say, I do think that Patty's right. I think that we had a great run. The Vancouver market had an unbelievable run, and there were a lot of green lights, and it was just like go, 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 everybody. And unemployment. What are you talking about? Interest rates. Don't worry about it. Buy, buy, buy. Everyone went crazy, and guess what? Fantasy, like it couldn't last, and I think everybody knows that. So here we are in a balanced market, which in general most of North America kind of, this is the way it is in most cities.
All day long.
Yep, I agree. Welcome back to reality. Why don't we have a quick...
It hits hard, though. It hit hard. It hit hard.
Yeah.
It hits hard. Yeah.
Why don't we have a quick chat here just about the Cowichan land dispute?
Sure.
We've had a few calls from clients. We've had people come into the office and have a quick chat with us about how this kind of affects the broader sense. I've done a few interviews. Give me some feedback that we're hearing from clients. I'll give you my perspective as well. But why don't we have a quick chat about this, and then we'll dive into the market update.
Yeah,
Jen, you did some homework, so
I think this came out of left field for a lot of British Columbia homeowners. I think that there were rumblings, and if you were a person who's been interested in trying to deep dive into this in the past, you have the pulse of it. But for most of us in our day-to-day lives, this was not something that we expected. And even if we heard about it, we kind of assumed, oh no, the courts will, have common sense and understand that, our economy is based on this torn system of land title. It's a trust-based system where, we exchange money for this idea that we have the title to our property. And I think it was just a really big shock that, my goodness, could this somehow affect our system? And I think what we've seen is all levels of government come out, especially here in the community of Richmond, and really speak against it, and speak against how they do hope that the courts come to their senses and kind of figure this out as we move forward. But it's still a really gray area, and I think there are a few hoops to jump through. We have, of course, calmed our clients down. I had a lot of people at a party I was at last weekend say to me, Jennifer, come over here into the corner. You want to still own my home? And of course, the answer is you do. So we don't know necessarily where this is going, but certainly I don't see a big rush of public positivity toward the direction that land ruling has gone in. In fact, what I'm seeing is basically everyone I've spoken to says, absolutely not. This is not what I want from my elected official or my government. And I think that things will all fall into place accordingly, and we'll kind of look back on this as just another stepping stone in the dialogue of reconciliation.
I share the same cautious optimism as you. Patty, we had a client come in the other day. Talk to me a little bit about her concern, her fear, how we were able to just kind of talk her through that, what we know, just what was the general consensus of that conversation?
Yeah, just that she came in with a pre-sale and she wanted to sell it. And I really wasn't clear why. So I kind of did a bit of a deep dive, let's go through how much did you pay? What was your deposit? Do you see that you're going to have to pay the developer to resell this? And so I then said, I'm sorry, but do you need to sell this? Because sometimes, people get in over their head. And she said, no, I could complete. And I said, well, then what are you doing? And that's when it came out that she had fear around this whole ruling. And
in fact, her property, just so that the listener understands, her property was not even in the affected area.
So, yeah, it couldn't be further away in Richmond, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. It's just, it just, for me, it just spoke to the fear that has been created by all of the press, all of the articles, all of the meetings, all of the things that are said at the meeting. I know, Adam, you attended the meeting. Thank you for doing that for us. And, you know, and Adam you spoke to me about what was said there, and, you know, some people got up and talked, and, you know, I certainly had questions about what they were saying, because I think oftentimes these, what happens is everybody gets inflamed and jumps on the bandwagon. And in fact, one of the people that spoke that, you know, said he was having trouble with financing was what this girl referenced when she came in. She spoke about him because she was at that meeting. And I said, well, the only problem is we don't have all the facts. We
don't see his financial picture.
And we don't have the facts. So I think I know we want to be cautious. I want to be cautious. I own property. I want to be cautious, but I also don't want to jump in with both feet with very little information. And I know, like I said, Jen, you did a bit of a deep dive about how that property got into that predicament of the judge ruling the way they did. And most of Richmond isn't that way. So it's just interesting. I think we need to just slow down, calm down, sort out, let the courts sort it out. And it could be 5, 6, 7 years before that happens.
Yeah.
So that's what I told the woman, you know, go home. Like, thank you so much for thinking of us, but you need to not sell this property right now. You need to go home and sort it out, pay and in 2 to 3 years, if you still want to sell it because it's not right, you're going to be fine. So let's go. And so off she went. And, you know, I hope she slept that night, because I think she hadn't been sleeping. That's what she told me. Yeah. That's how fearful people are. Yeah. And that's not good.
I do think our real estate board and, you know, the Real Estate Association of British Columbia is doing a good job in terms of putting out white papers and discussion papers and all sorts of things about. And I do think that as realtors, we are going to be kind of on the front lines of helping people, like advising people and letting them know what is going on. And like on that note, I would really encourage all levels of government to get really transparent with everyone right now, so that, you know, if there really is something to worry about, like, let us know. And if there really isn't, then, hey, let's get transparent and let us know that this isn't something to worry about. And we can just kind of go on in this foreign land title system that we have been operating in for hundreds of years, or 100 plus years.
Well, we'll definitely see how it unfolds in the coming years in court cases. So
I think we're going to need a separate podcast on this. Yeah, podcast on this.
We'll
topic
do what we can. We'll try to get we'll try to get somebody in.
Before you move on, Adam, just my phone is always on me. So if anybody's worried, that belongs to us. Any of our clients, anybody that we deal with on a regular basis wants to talk about it. As you said, we've opened up our office. We've already seen a few people. Happy to share the map of the boundaries. I'm happy to do whatever we can to make you feel a bit more comfortable about what's going on.
Well said. Let's move on to the stats now for the month of October. We'll jump right into sales. So the board has come out and said that home sales in the region totaled 2,255 in October 2025, 14% decline year over year. But is this the fall bump that we were all kind of waiting for, as this is 20% increase month over month? So my question to you guys about that fall bump is, despite 4 rate cuts this year and year over year sales are still down, what does this say about the buyer confidence right now?
You know, I wouldn't really describe the buyer confidence as confidence. I think that if you are financially qualified and you've been watching the inventory, sellers have adjusted and you can see this, and now you've made a move. And the only reason I feel confident in telling everyone that is because our office is boots on the ground and we are literally working with buyers. So Patti and I had a wonderful sale this week. And, when they came into the office to do subject removal, they said, wow, how long have we been doing this for? We kind of counted back when we had first met, and it was, basically at the beginning of the year. So they started looking. They did have a property to sell. We that they achieved that, and then they basically looked through the summer, and sellers had not adjusted in the summer. And then, of course, what changed? September, new times, new stats, all sorts of things. And this allowed the buyer to then recognize when true value kind of occurred in the right house for them, which was a really nicely maintained home, etc. They went for it. And I'm seeing this whether you're purchasing a condo or a townhome, but this one happened to be detached. When a buyer is educated and can see that a seller has adjusted, that's why we see that little bump, in my opinion.
And which property type, detached, townhouse, condo, do you think is showing the kind of strongest amount of interest right now?
From the stats, it's townhomes.
It's townhomes.
Yeah, they are the most stable. Detached is taking the biggest overall beating, and then condos are down a bit.
And just this month, right? It's interesting because it's just, again, just look at supply. So when you try to find the inventory, there's not that much trouble trying to find a condo right now. There's lots to choose from. Good townhouses are hard, right? Think about, we were just at a townhouse with a master on the main.
Beautiful. Yes.
And when I started thinking about it, I thought, there's nothing to compare to it right now. Nothing at all. Yeah. So that makes it still pretty much in demand. And we've seen a few of those kind of properties lately where there's really not that much inventory to choose from. So that's still an advantage to the seller. Yeah.
I know the Bank of Canada had their fourth interest rate cut this year. Again, we've talked about interest rates before, and we know that they're falling. Do you think this was enough to really motivate more buyers to get into the market, or do you think there's still this wait and see mentality?
I go to the gym and
what are they saying?
And there's this cute little 37-year-old who's my friend, and she told me that all her friends want to buy, but they're waiting because they keep thinking that it's going to come down more. I thought it was the cutest thing. I thought, that's about right. That's really what we're hearing from economists too. But thank you, person at the gym. It was very helpful. Anyway, it was adorable. Yeah, they still say there's that segment of the population that hasn't bought yet. That's been in the news many times.
So we're saying there's pent-up demand is what we're saying.
Pent-up demand, but they are waiting. And I think they are waiting to see if these interest rates just kind of level off, which now we have an indication that might be the case, because there is an opportunity for one more, a rate drop or rate change, let's call it. But the word on the street is that probably won't happen. But I think buyers are waiting to see if there is some kind of additional adjustment price wise. And then I think the two things will add up to buyers getting into the market and taking that plunge.
Awesome. Let's talk about new listings and total inventory. So right now there's just over 5,400 detached, attached apartment properties newly listed for sale on the MLS. This is right in line with October 2024, so from a year ago. But when we're looking month over month for new listings, we're actually down 17%. When we're talking about total amount of inventory currently on the market, there's about 16,400 listings available on MLS. It's a 14% increase since last year and a negative 4% decrease. So a 4% decrease from last month. Now, interesting, June was the peak for inventory. And since then, every month it's actually been declining. And when we look back at our historical data, we have to go back to September 2014 to meet where the inventory level of June 2025 was. So we have to go back 11 years to find that amount of inventory back into this market. So when we're talking about total inventory, we know that inventory is 36% above the 10-year average.
Mm-hmm.
How might this shape pricing as we look through the winter and then we head into the fall? Sorry,
Well,
spring.
Of course, if inventory continues to rise, then there will be pressure on the price as people try to sell, right? Because there's a certain segment of the population that must sell, right? Someone's passed away, someone's been transferred. They've got to sell there's a very compelling reason. And then there are other people that just choose not to. They think they want to sell, they want to move, but they can't get the price they want, and so they take it off the market. I would tell you that I think that's why the market's declining in terms of inventory, month over month.
Because seller fatigue and they're taking it off the market?
Yeah. And seller disillusionment, like, I don't want to sell for that price, right? So off they come. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing, because it shows we have staying power. We talk about this all the time. If you have staying power, I had that conversation with an agent who was, fooling around on an offer. And I said to her, you're working on the supposition that everyone is desperate. And I don't believe that's true. I think there could be the odd seller that is, quote, needing to sell desperately, but not very many. And your offer reflects this desperation that isn't reality. So you need to have a conversation with your buyers. Do you want to buy it or not? And if you want to buy it, then use the comparables as a guide to what it will sell for instead of the dartboard that you're throwing the darts at right now, right? And they eventually came up.
There you go. Staying power can have lasting and paying effects. With new listings holding steady, are sellers testing the market? Are they getting serious about adjusting expectations? Are they holding firm? Like you just said, we had a situation with a seller who had staying power. What's the mindset of sellers right now?
I think it goes back to what Patty's kind of been saying over the last few months. It really is that need-based idea. Like, they are adjusting if they need to, and they are holding firm if they can. A lot of this has to do with when they purchased as well, you guys. So if they purchased this property back in 1990 and there's a reason for them to sell, they're looking to us for what is the best we can do for them, of course. But, they're allowing the market to tell them what it's kind of valued at, right? This is different when you've suddenly purchased it in 2023 or 2022, and then your circumstances have changed. You are looking at, a difficult decision and maybe not making all the money you're used to making in the Vancouver real estate market, right? So, yeah, it just depends on the need. That's what sellers are doing.
Yeah, that's where we go back and talk about the gap of where you're selling for and what you're buying for, because you can probably going to have to sell for less. You're most likely going to buy for less as well, but the gap remains pretty close to what it should be.
Yeah.
When we talk about sales to active listing ratio, the ratio this month was 14.2%, which is slightly up from last month, which was only 11.3%. So we're seeing the speed of sales increase. Really quickly, predictions. Do we expect that pace of sales to increase through the winter and just before spring? Yes or no? Really quickly, what's our prediction there?
No.
You think? Okay, we think the speed of
sales
is going to fall.
Will pick up. No. Yeah.
So if the pace of sales are going to slow down and inventory through the winter tends to dwindle and then pick up in the spring,
yeah.
Do we think we've hit the floor on pricing, or is there more room to fall?
Depends.
Depends on?
Inventory. How much inventory there is competing against the product that you have.
Well, let's talk about that. Where do we think levels of inventory are going?
Well, you said they're going down.
Yeah, I think they will decline. It's natural. Yeah, it's natural that they decline. But it will depend what happens when we turn that corner in 2026. Does everyone put it back on the market? Do buyers suddenly come off the fence?
I am hearing a lot of in January, February. So I think we may see a big jump in inventory.
In inventory?
Because it's not just buyer pent-up demand. It could be seller pent-up demand too, right?
They've been waiting, hoping prices went up.
Just,
I do think, Adam, like if you've been on the market for a while, and we see this, and this is why it is so important that you price your property right the first time and don't linger, because what we've seen is people are reducing, but they are chasing the market. Yeah. And so they're saying, oh, but my seller reduced, like if I'm taking a buyer through, the guy might say to me, oh, well, my seller reduced 200,000 already. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but that still doesn't put him in line with where prices are. And I'm sorry that he was so late to the party to reduce. That's not my buyer's problem. So price your property correctly the first time, and then you're not going to chase that market down. And so when you do adjust, the adjustment means something.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question here. We briefly touched on the expectation of the rate announcement later this year, and let's just say that we're not really expecting a change for the next rate announcement.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what's going to drive the next wave of activity? Is it confidence, affordability, necessity? Where do we think that next wave is coming from?
Well, I think it's coming from pent-up demand. I think there are quite a few people that could purchase right now that aren't. And that would go a long way to moving the market. But there is a lot of instability in the world right now. And people are afraid. Just like little, the latest news about the land in Richmond and in Kamloops and everywhere else that they're talking about. These things scare people, and then it kind of puts them off. But there is pent-up demand because we see it. We see open houses. Where when you have an open house in a quiet market, do you get 20 people through? And yet we see them. So we know they're out there. They're just not making that decision but at some point they will, because they always do.
Confidence.
Because we have to live.
So for Patti, you're saying pent-up demand, but it's mostly confidence-based.
Yes. Yeah.
Jen, do you have a differing opinion? Do you think it's pretty bang on?
I do think it's bang on. I can't tell you what will make the difference. Like, I don't think, unemployment numbers or something like that's going to, something obscure is going to make buyers come off the market. I really just think it's going to be that kind of confident feeling. And I think what we know is real estate is a herd mentality operation. So as soon as those people from Patti's gym all start buying and all these other people, all these other things happen, they tell two friends and so on and so on. And then all of a sudden we come to this thing where people, the prices, the interest rate. Okay, I'm going to do it. I heard Bob did it, so I'm going to do it too. So I think that will happen. And I don't know, I think it has a chance to happen in the spring. So we'll see.
Perfect. Any last comments, words of wisdom?
Going to sound like a broken record, but move when it's right for you. And right now, right now there's lots of opportunity. There's opportunity to have subject to sale. There's opportunity to negotiate on a price. There's opportunity to take your time. So while we live in a very fast-paced society, this is a very major purchase. And just like those lovely people who finished their purchase 2 nights ago, Jennifer, who started at the beginning of the year, good for them. They did their homework.
Yeah. And my other piece of advice is call your mortgage broker before the end of the year. Listen to what your mortgage broker is saying. Get financially ready. If you are thinking about moving up in the market, or you are thinking about helping a family member, your first call, even before you call us, call a mortgage broker. Find out what they're thinking. Find out what you're qualified for. You might be really surprised about some incentives that are being offered, all sorts of things. That is what my piece of advice is for you if you are thinking about anything to do with real estate, especially in 2026.
Yeah.
Wonderful tips. To our audience, if you think anyone would find this podcast, the Spotify, however you listen to this, if you think they would find it helpful, please share it. And if anybody has any questions, Jen, Patti, and myself, we're always available for a conversation and a coffee.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Thank you,
time.
Adam.
Adam.